Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Welcome to another video. Talking about my favorite second-gen console today, once again, the ColecoVision, but this time the 8 side-scrolling shooters for the ColecoVision, all 8 horizontal shooters for this classic console. Be sure to let me know in the comments if you call these types of shooters, like Defender, like Cosmic Avenger, do you call these side-scrolling shooters or horizontal shooters? Whatever you call them, we're going to discuss all 8. And there are 4 that kind of are side-scrolling adjacent, but they don't make the cut. I'll discuss those briefly as well. All right, guys, these are all original games, no homebrews. Let's get to it. Very briefly, the ones that don't make the cut as being side-scrolling shooters are Zaxxon, an isometric shooter, Wing War, which doesn't actually scroll, it just sort of jumps from screen to screen, Sector Alpha is a first-person shooter, and Victory is an asteroids type shooter. So those don't quite fall into the side-scrolling shooter genre. But let's get to it, guys. Number 1 is Aqua Attack. This is an extremely rare game. Complete in box copies go for $500 according to video game price charts. I don't actually have a copy of this game, unfortunately, but it is a lot of fun. It's a solid game. You guys might want to emulate it if you don't want to shell out that kind of money for it. The action scrolls to the left with you in a hydro ship shooting at tanks and avoiding helicopters, sandbars, and depth charges while making sure to refuel. The keypad controls the direction of the shots from your ship, which is interesting. Now, part 2 of the game is similar, but takes place in a tunnel. You use a hang glider in phase 3, and then finally you're on foot, transporting 4 hydrogen bombs from the bottom of the playfield to the top, one by one. So that sort of changes the gameplay there. Yes, this is a very versatile shooter. There's 4 distinct phases in the game, but man, it is tough to find. Guys, back in the day, during the great video game crash of 1983, when I was going from store to store buying a ton of ColecoVision games for pennies on the dollar, I don't recall ever seeing Aqua Attack, because I would buy every game that I didn't already have in my collection. Just one copy. Nobody knew these things were going to be worth money, but I would buy them to complete my collection. Never saw Aqua Attack apparently, because I don't have it in my collection. Anyway, we're going in alphabetical order today. So the first one was Aqua Attack. Next up in alphabetical order is Choplifter, a port of the classic Apple II game that was developed by Dan Gorlin and published by Broderbund in 1982. Yeah, Choplifter is a really famous computer game, so a lot of you probably played it. You know, you older gamers, more seasoned gamers, or just really hardcore retro gamers have probably played this on the computer, as I did back in the day. The ColecoVision version is playable, but it lacks the air mines from the original game. Now, why would a ColecoVision game lack air mines? You tell me. I'm sure it had plenty of memory. They just cut corners here for some reason, maybe for time. You pilot a helicopter while picking up hostages and shooting tanks and jets. Like the original, the game does have an ending. Yes, a shooter with an ending, which is kind of disappointing, and where it says, "You win." This is a very anticlimactic ending for the game. Choplifter is playable. It's solid. It's not a bad game. But the fact that it has an ending, they could have kept it going and just amped up the difficulty. But you could say they were faithful to the original game with the ending. But this game is all about rescuing hostages, all of the hostages, not about scoring. It's just about rescuing hostages. But it does have solid shooting action. So you might want to check out Choplifter if you get the chance. All right, guys, next up is Cosmic Avenger. This is definitely an iconic game within the ColecoVision fandom. It's an early game for the console, a launch release, and it was sort of epitomized the console because it was an obscure arcade game, but very popular on the ColecoVision. It was one of 9 launch titles for the system. This was one of the first ColecoVision games I bought after receiving my console for Christmas of 1982. It's a port of the 1981 Universal arcade classic, following in the wake of Konami's Scramble and Super Cobra. It's sort of part of an unofficial trilogy. Players pilot a fighter over domed cities and through alien seas, firing missiles and dropping bombs on UFOs, rockets, submarines, and other enemies. Yes, along with Scramble and Super Cobra, Cosmic Avenger was an early side-scrolling shooter where you could actually drop bombs on enemies below. Just a great game. It's not... You might not think it holds up today compared to, Super Cobra, Scramble, and Defender. Maybe it's not as exciting, but it still is a lot of fun. And it holds up in terms of just being a solid shooter. And I still enjoy this game. And it holds a ton of nostalgic value for me. And it is a really good arcade port. Yeah, ColecoVision did some great arcade ports, including Cosmic Avenger. As a matter of fact, the ColecoVision's best strength, its strongest asset, is the fact that there are some great arcade ports for this system. Next up is Defender. Yes, I do have a really nice CIB copy here, courtesy of electronic discount sales. I bought this sometime in the early 2000s. This retailer in Arlington, Texas had stacks and stacks and stacks of Defender and Centipede, just, in unopened condition and really nice. And I would buy a bunch of them to sell on eBay. And of course, I kept a copy of one of each. Just really nice. Now it was glue sealed, so I had to kind of tear it when I opened it. Maybe I should have used a heat gun or something. But anyway, this was years ago, and I just ripped that sucker open. And I was really excited when Atari started making games for the ColecoVision, including such titles as Galaxian, Jungle Hunt, Centipede, and Defender. Yes, it was kind of a surprise to me that Atari started making games for ColecoVision because they were seen as competitors definitely back in the day. Now, Defender for ColecoVision is less challenging than the Williams 1981 arcade classic, but this was a good thing for many, including me. I never got great at Defender on the arcades, but I got pretty decent at it for ColecoVision because it was easier. The scrolling is smooth, which you can't always say about a lot of ColecoVision games. If you look at something like Tutankhamun and even Cosmic Avenger, the scrolling's a little choppy, but the scrolling is very smooth in Defender, and the shooting action is fast and fun. So yeah, I highly recommend Defender. It's a great ColecoVision game, courtesy of Atari Soft. As a matter of fact, all the games from Atari Soft on the ColecoVision are exceptional. Guys, many years before GoldenEye for the N64, there was James Bond for the ColecoVision by Parker Brothers. Now, this game is the closest thing ColecoVision has to Moon Patrol. It was not based on an arcade game. It was an original release. Gamers drive a multi-purpose vehicle through air, land, and sea, firing angled shots upward and flare bombs downward at an assortment of enemies. There are also obstacles to jump over, a la Moon Patrol. While it's not as polished or as fun as Moon Patrol, it's a solid game that I spent a lot of time with back in the day. As a matter of fact, I think it's kind of an underrated title for the ColecoVision. I love the Parker Brothers lineup for the ColecoVision. I think they do great games for the system. And while 007 isn't one of the best Parker Brothers games, it is a lot of fun. It loosely interprets action scenes from 4 James Bond films: Diamonds Are Forever, The Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker, and For Your Eyes Only. So yeah, check out James Bond 007 on the ColecoVision. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's pretty solid. We are at number 6 with Looping. Looping. Now, when Looping came out for the ColecoVision, I bought it because I was getting just about every game that came out, especially first-party titles. But I'd never heard of the arcade version. I never saw it back in the day at the arcades I haunted, like Malibu Grand Prix Putt-Putt, or Land of Oz, or Aladdin's Castle, or any of those. I never saw it. But I did play it many years later at an arcade and at a retro gaming con, and discovered that Looping is indeed an excellent port of Ventureline's 1981 arcade obscurity, and a great example of ColecoVision popularizing a largely unknown game. Looping, it kind of has loopy gameplay. It's a colorful shooter where you fly in loops over a city and through a pipe maze, shooting at balloons, twinkle monsters, and other enemies and obstacles. Yes, twinkle monsters. It will never be anyone's favorite shooter. I've never talked to anyone, and probably never will, whose very favorite shooter is Looping. I can't imagine that. Games like Scramble, Super Cobra, and Gradius, and Galaxian and Space Invaders, and on are so much better, just to mention a variety of shooters. But it's different and it's a fun challenge. It's an original challenge. You do loop over and you have to sort of time the way you angle your ship and the way you go through different obstacles and things. So looping, it did grow on me as I played it. When I first picked it up, I was like, this is slow and kind of weird. But as I played it, I played it a lot and I got really pretty good at it and really enjoyed completing the game. Yes, there is an ending, but it does start over at the beginning at a more difficult pace, unlike Choplifter. But yeah, looping, pretty solid and definitely original. At least the arcade version was original. This is just a great port. All right, guys, we will get to the next pick in just a moment, but if you like games from this era, if you like ColecoVision, Atari 2600, and even the NES and Master System, check out these books that I've written. I've got a baker's dozen books. I've written 13 books, but these two cover the golden age of games from the NES to the ColecoVision, Atari 2600, Magnavox Odyssey, Odyssey 2. So check out these books. I will put a link in the description of this video. Next up is Nova Blast. Nova Blast. Be sure and let me know in the comments if you've played this game before. It's fairly obscure for a Magic game. It's not one of the rare titles, but the game borrows elements of Defender, Missile Command, and Scramble. You can see Saturn, stars, a crescent moon, and islands in the background as you shoot lasers at and drop bombs on walkers, fighters, and other enemies. Yeah, it's pretty solid looking game. It kind of has some nice background graphics. A scanner at the bottom of the screen tracks the enemy ships, sort of like Defender. You must beam energy aboard your ship and transfer it to cities that have lost their shields. That can get a little tedious, but it's kind of different, so it's kind of interesting strategy. It's challenging, it's fun, and it has a rapid fire ship. Yeah, it's one of the few ColecoVision games with truly rapid firing. And it looks a lot better than the Intellivision version, which is really blocky. Now, I found my Nova Blast cartridge at a garage sale back in the day around 1984 or 1985. It wasn't super common to find ColecoVision games at the garage sales in 84 or 85 because that was right after, you know, it came out in Christmas or summer of August specifically of 82. And yeah, there was the crash in 83 and a lot of people, you know, stopped playing their game consoles and started playing computers instead. You know, computer games instead, the Commodore 64 and on and on. And a lot of people just abandoned video games altogether, but it was still pretty uncommon to see ColecoVision games in 84, 85. You could find a lot of Atari stuff, but I was really excited. I found Nova Blast, Las Vegas Blackjack Poker, and one other game, I don't remember the title off the top of my head, for just $1 each. And I didn't have those games yet in my collection, so I added those for $1 each. I would have rather had boxed copies, but I was really excited to find them so cheaply at a garage sale. That's my first time I ever found ColecoVision games at a garage sale, so that was really exciting. Next up is Super Cobra, a solid port of Konami's 1981 arcade game, but craggy mountains have been replaced by pointy, straight-lined peaks, and the buildings have been simplified as well. Yes, this is just nitpicking on my part. The ColecoVision version is easier. Like a lot of home ports, even on the hardest level, it's easier than the arcade game. Ironically, you must shoot fuel tanks to refuel. It is the sequel to Scramble, which also has this refueling method. We didn't care. Destroy fuel tanks to refuel? Didn't matter to us, we were just having fun. It's an early side-scroller that Cosmic Avenger fans will enjoy. Like I said, I love the Parker Brothers lineup on the ColecoVision. There's Popeye, Mr. Deuce Castle, Cubert, Tutankhamun, and others. It's just a, you know, when you talk about third-party companies of this era, people throw around Activision and Magic a lot, as well they should. Great companies, but Parker Brothers belongs right there as well. Now guys, the two rare items I was talking about, ColecoVision Experience. I have 2 of the issues, and I believe there were only 3 or 4 of them published. I used to think there was 3, but there might be 4. Let me know in the comments if you remember. I'm just going off the top of my head there. But this was a fan magazine that tragically didn't last very long. It was killed by the crash along with so many hopes and dreams for ColecoVision owners. But anyway, it's pretty cool to have those. But guys, you need to let me know, please, if I missed any. Are there any other side-scrolling shooters for the ColecoVision original releases back in the day that I missed? I don't think so. I did a lot of research here and I'm very well versed with the ColecoVision lineup. So I believe those are all 8. Also, are there any homebrew side-scrolling shooters that you would recommend I check out for the ColecoVision? I would love to hear from you guys that would be awesome. I like to support the homebrew community when I can. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, liking, and subscribing. Of the 8 side-scrolling shooters I mentioned here, which is your favorite? I tend to think there's a lot to like about all of them. What would be my favorite? Maybe Defender, but they're all pretty awesome. Thanks, guys, for watching. We'll talk to you in another video.